Hi, guys. So, what we're working on now for week 9, we're combining some material from the past 2 or 3 weeks regarding Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Because of the winter storm that week, totally broke apart everything. Uh, I'm basically taking into consideration the graphic novel that I supplied to you, which is very faithful to the original source and gives you the actual text in visual format. Um, I may have mentioned that there's a film coming out this year or next year, which is based on the Sir Gawain myth. But again, I don't know how they're gonna play with the ideas, and it's called The Green Knight. So something to look forward to. But back to my point, the graphic novel is very loyal to the original source. It is created by the graphic artist Emily Cheeseman, and I do like the illustrations that is provided here. It does give you a good cinematic feel for the material, and at the same time, maintaining the storyline uh, very close to the original source. Again, it's under week 8 TVS. So if you haven't looked at this already, please go back and look at the full graphic novel. You are going to make a comparison between a section of pages here and an actual passage from the original source that's been translated by John Gardner. So before I get to that, let me explain the exercise itself, okay? So, what we have here, you're looking at complementary elements that exist between the graphic novel and the actual poem. Ideally, I'm going to skip ahead. Ideally, you're answering the question how the poet and the artist both present the personality of the protagonist. What is the Gawain poet stating about chivalry? Is this an epic with a social commentary? Is he trying to say, in other words, that the medieval times need to alter their outlook of the culture? Is he saying Sir Gawain is an example of what not to be, or is he an example of what you should be? Okay, so if Sir Gawain is an example of what you should be, then he's promoting the culture of chivalry. If he's saying Sir Gawain is an example of what not to be, he's saying, therefore, we need to be making changes and rethink the process of the medieval times. Okay, so what's happening with this type of logic? You want to understand the basic differences between the various art forms. Those are observations that you'll come up with on your own. You're going to be using a new historicism lens. I'll have an article for you to utilize to back up your observations of the text. And you're building a connection between the medieval culture and modern society. Does modern society have issues that echo the medieval cultural issues? Okay, so again, be sure you've read the supplied passages. The Epic of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight by the Gawain poet. I've included that in the folder. Be sure to read the graphic interpretation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, specifically pages 45 to 61. And that's focusing on the scene when Sir Gawain finally meets up with the Green Knight and accepts the responsibility of the action of this mystical creature. I also have a chapter from A Distant Mirror. That's by Barbara Tushman. It's chapter 3 from A Distant Mirror, and it gives you some good ideas about the context of the chivalry code and the attitudes of raising children and how the youth of the time period were expected to behave and the ideology of the time period. So again, you're comparing the textual passage from Book 4, stanza 16, against the graphic version, pages 45 to 54. specifically the 54. Uh, will be the focus of your thesis statement. Is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight overall a social commentary? You will use textual evidence from the John Gardner translation, which is the passage itself, or from the Barbara Tushman material, Chapter 3. These will support your critical observations. You want to provide multiple unique ideas. You want to maintain academic tone and vernacular, avoid contractions in the personal I voice, increase your vocabulary word choice. Now, when you quote from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the actual John Gardner interpretation, be sure to let the in-text citation show this formula. It'll be a Roman numeral for the book. It comes from book 4. There's a period. 16 is the stanza number. So I will expect to see a Roman numeral 4, period, 16, period. That'll be standard. Depending on the lines you quote, that's where you get a variation. So in this case, in my example, it says lines 3 through 5. But you count the lines within the stanza itself and determine what you're quoting. From the distant mirror, these are page numbers. Look closely at the page numbers in the upper corners of the PDF. The authentic page numbers are listed. So if you quote something from page 52, you're showing me the number 52. I'm okay if you discuss your ideas with other people in the class, but your responses will be original. They will be posted in turnitin.com. So it's due Friday before midnight, and that's the 5th. This is considered a long response. So what that means is you will have to determine the amount of information you want to provide. It can be as little as 5 paragraphs. It can be as little as 4 paragraphs or more. Okay, so 4 paragraphs or more is the ideal length. Okay, so I'm closing out the PDF. Again, the graphic novel you'll find in week 8 of Schoology. This is from page 53 in particular, where Sir Gawain in red is confronting the Green Knight in green. Okay, notice the facial expressions of the character. That's another reason why I admire this work. She's very closely adhering to the personality that traditionally has been associated with these characters. Okay, and the text is easy to follow. Okay. Now, what is crucial here, there is no wrong answer to how you observe the reactions of the character. In this case, Sir Gawain. You just have to back it up with evidence from the actual poem. Okay, so like I said, right here where it says Book 4, stanza 16, that is the stanza that of the Bob and Wheel from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight you're concentrating on. And I had put some emphasis here from my original reading. Okay, you might pick up on the fact Sir Gawain says he's guilty. He can't deny his guilt. Now, for him to admit that, this is where you need to consider, is he following a close reading of the knightly code, or is he admitting he's totally failed as a knight? Okay. So when he goes back to Camelot, he thinks he's made major mistakes in his adventure with the Green Knight. Does that signify that he has failed overall as a hero, and that this text is an example of what not to do in life? Or is he just being humble? Is he just admitting that his one slight flaw is something he has overcome and he's transformed into the perfect hero? And therefore, he's an example of what to be. Okay? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. You supply the material. And you're just basing it off this one passage, his reaction here, and you're looking at the visuals of these pages of his reaction to the Green Knight through the graphic novel. Okay? Okay. So if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. All this week, you'll be working towards this long response. If you need further information from me, just hit me up with the notifications. And as always, as I've been saying, be safe, be careful, and I'll talk to you soon.